What is up, sexy people? It is Dave, it is Duncan, back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from Connecticut noise rock wrecking crew, Intercourse. The band's new album, I Fell in Love with the Void, will be released on September 12th via Brutal Panda Records. Okay, I have no life. I don't fucking do anything else. I don't have any hobbies. I don't play video games. I don't do fantasy football. I'm just obsessed with making music and writing. That's Intercourse vocalist Tariq Ahmed explaining how the acclaimed Connecticut noise rock band has averaged a release per year since forming in 2013. From their self-titled debut and 2018's Everything's Pornography When You've Got an Imagination to 2023's Halo Castration Institute and last year's Egyptian Democracy EP, Intercourse have kicked against the pricks, power brokers and pissants who make America great while tempering their outlook with a self-deprecating look inward. Which brings us to How I Fell in Love with the Void. Ahmed and his bandmates spent more time and money on their fourth full length than any of their previous releases. In fact, Ahmed ended up rewriting his lyrics 3 times. I fucking wrote my ass off, and then I do this thing about 2 months out where I'm like, everything I wrote sucks, so I'm going to rewrite all the lyrics. Then a month before recording, my wife and I decided to split, so I tried to punch up the lyrics and make them funnier by throwing some divorce stuff in there. I think it made it more depressing. Marital bliss aside, the lyric themes on How I Fell in Love with the Void aren't dissimilar from those on Intercourse's 2016 EP, Pissing into the Abyss, which features a cover illustration of a woman fucking a giant insect while an alien watches. On the new record, there's definitely a lot of talking about the void and that emptiness that a lot of us try to fill with food, booze, or sex. Pissing into the Abyss was about being so comfortable with the void that you'll just piss anywhere. Unfortunately, I'm super acquainted with it, but once you realise that nothing will ever fill the void, it will no longer rule over you. Ultimately, How I Fell in Love with the Void is about being on the outside looking in. We're music for weirdos and freaks, Ahmed says. I grew up as the only Egyptian kid in a little white town. I'm an outsider, and we make music for outsiders. Every time we play a faraway place that we haven't been to before, there's always one person there that has followed us for years and that is there specifically for us. They're always the weirdest person in the room, and I love that. Those are my people. How I Fell in Love with the Void was recorded by Chris Tetty at Silver Bullet Studios in Harwinton and mastered by George Richter. So, yeah, I'd never heard of these guys before.
Neither had I. So when you were like that, they put out something every year. It's like, and I have yet to hear any of it until now.
And obviously, we're probably not that dialed into the Connecticut noise rock scene either.
No, noise rock's a hard one as well. I think I would argue, and I would put our musical knowledge of most genres, even some of the more obscure ones, out there as being like probably hold their own in a pub quiz. Noise rock is I will. There are so many noise rock bands I've just. It was a couple of years ago. Out of nowhere, I heard that Bummer album, and I was fucking obsessed with it. And I was like, can't wait for the next one. And then it split up, and that's how I think noise rock has always been that way with me. Like as soon as I find a band I like, the band are like that. Fuck it, Duncan likes us. No new music.
Thankfully, all of their previous releases are less than 25 minutes long. So
I mean,
so the pre-listening to this was a delight. It was great. Like I was, oh fuck yes, not a problem. Let's dive in. And to be honest, like they all have a fairly similar like tone and delivery. There's like small shifts in certain styles, but mainly like for the most part, just like very pissed off, and like little to no respite on the releases. I think the last album was probably the most varied. It had a touch more experimentation in style. A little bit, some bits that were kind of more avant-garde. So like I was kind of like, I was interested to hear like where were they going to go with this? Like, this far into their career and so many releases in, what did they do on this release? So, this one kicks off much more viscerally than the previous album, with the Ballad of Max Wright. The kind of avant-garde kind of stuff that was on the previous album wasn't really that apparent on this first track. This felt more... This felt like, as you would say, this felt more like an upfront cunt.
Yes.
Like the hardcore and like almost kind of like grindcore elements are like a lot more kind of potent on this opening track. And there's a level of like anger and rage that feels like it gone up a level from the previous release as well. Definitely not a ballad, as the title would suggest. Also, like, Max Wright is the dude from Alf, the 80s TV show. I was like, why is there so much rage here? Like, he seemed like a pretty chill dude, to be honest. But looking into things, apparently he hated being on that show, so maybe there's, the rage is maybe justified. I don't know. But what I really liked about that opening track, well, apart from like all the violence and the chaos, was the transition on the track, like from that like visceral chaos into something slower and much more kind of moody in tone. There's like nice like clean guitars come in. There's this real like injection of ambience that comes later in the track, and compositionally it really grabbed me. I was like, this is really fucking cool, and the ending is so satisfying. Like that kind of, it goes back towards the kind of heavier side at the end, but it goes slow and kind of almost like sludge or like post metal kind of adjacent. And they fit a lot in. Like, this track is only 3 minutes, but you feel like, all right, we've covered a lot of ground here on track one. So like, what happens next? And I think that's like something they've really improved on with this release, in terms of the kind of the moving parts and the kind of spectrum of styles and extremities. This release is definitely the most varied, the most interesting for me anyway. The little shifts in tempo throughout this album are great, because it stops the album from feeling too kind of like samey or repetitive. Although the riffs are like, for noise rock, they're always quite angular and quite kind of wiry sounding, but this band aren't opposed to dropping in something a bit more chuggy or almost kind of simplistic, just to give you that feeling of like, all right, here's the girthy part coming, on the track, which is really cool. It also feels, for me anyway, it felt much more fluid, this album, that the transitions from those really like discordant but kind of ugly riffs into something more dialed back work really well on this album. And I do think as a whole this album felt more memorable to me. I only listened to the previous albums like kind of once, but I felt like straight off the bat, like on one listen to this one, it felt more memorable than what they've done in the past, especially vocally. I feel like Tarek has like one of those voices you can't really ignore. Like he never fades into the background. Like the tone is just savage. Like it's just,
I think even the production, he is very much in front of the music and the production and the mix.
For sure. But I feel like it's even more like in your face on this release. His lyrical choices, even the kind of phrasing, it really kind of grabs you. Like the vocals were something I was really like paying attention to on this album, and like a lot of it, is delivered with that kind of like scorched earth kind of attitude. You can hear there's a level of like torment and the vocal recording, which I loved. But as he's kind of alluded to, it has a kind of dark sense of humor. So like, I'm not always sure if is this tongue in cheek or like, I can never quite tell with it. But I love the vocals on it. I thought it captures a lot of kind of authentic kind of hardcore and noise rock. That kind of spirit anyway from that kind of almost kind of like 90s period. But he's got personality for days. Like his style comes through in this, which I think makes it even more convincing on the album. If you listen to, there's a track called Cadaver Resume, I think it's called. Yes. But that just absolutely rips. That track is fucking awesome. His tone in the last 30 seconds, unreal. Like I was getting like, a kind of like 90s kind of like turmoil, or even like kind of almost visceral, almost Vision of Disorder, that kind of like that kind of more higher register kind of scream, just like absolutely killer. And I think like an album like this does come with the kind of danger of being too overwhelming, I suppose. This band's particular style does sit in a place that is very chaotic. It can be very twisted and angular. You know, the rhythms are quite kind of contorted as well. And like when I listened to some of the previous albums, I did feel like some of that was maybe a touch too much for me, like a little too intense in places. This still has that hostility for sure, and it's, you know, it's unconventional in places, but you know, it doesn't really leave you with like upbeat choruses in your head either. But I felt like it stayed with me for completely different reasons. I felt like the balance on this album is much better, and I think by the band pushing the kind of sonic and emotional limits further on this release, that feeling, that cathartic kind of feeling really pours out of this release more than their previous albums, musically and vocally. And I think that hit me more than anything else on this release. I think this is really well done. I think the production is also a huge step up. I thought the tone and the character of this album is killer. It's got a real kind of raw energy to it. But the grit of it really kind of elevates the tracks. The guitar tone is killer, but there's a nice clarity in the mix as well, where everything is audible. There's nothing here that feels like kind of distorted or lost at all. I think this is the best the band have sounded production wise to date. For a band I'd never heard before, I'm really impressed with this. And after hearing this album, I can imagine to be one of those bands that like live just give you everything they've got. Like, I feel like the energy and the rawness in their live performance would be something to see. So I'm really hoping that maybe they come to the UK at some point. Scotland would be even better. But yeah, for this album, thoroughly enjoyed this. I'm not the biggest noise rock guy, but there was a lot on this album that I really enjoyed and really connected with. So great job. Really enjoyed this one. Duncan, what are you thinking? What did you make of this?
Well, you have me in when you have a kind of very fun, quirky song names. Like, I love bands that are very playful with them. So if you give me a track which isn't more than a feeling, it's slightly less than a feeling, I will smile for days on that. They're also like, because I'm just a font of fucking really bizarre, obscure knowledge, Running a Cemetery Without a License is a John Wayne Gacy quote.
Oh, right, okay.
He was joking with the cops, and he's like, the only thing you might want to arrest me for, maybe I'm guilty of, is running a cemetery without a license. And they're like, right. 34 dead bodies in your crawl space. 34 dead boys in your crawl space. What came to me almost instantly on the vocals?
What was that?
Is imagine Chat Pile. Imagine Ray Gunn from Chat Pile's younger, angrier brother decided to start a band, and that would be the sound of Intercourse. He has that. Not only does he have the kind of poignance and the lyrical delivery that's really captivating, but he sits in a kind of slightly similar register, and the aggro stuff, he's just like, he doesn't have the kind of the melody range that Chat Pile have. But they do kind of sit somewhat, and actually that's a noise rock quality. I mean, Chat Pile are kind of a quasi-industrial, shoegazy noise rock band. So I mean, they're in a similar thing. I got so many influences flying at me from all over the place when I was listening to this, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. It was reminiscent without sounding ripping off or plagiarizing other band sounds, but at times this is all the kind of manic phonetic energy of like an Every Time I Die or a Cancer Bats, right through to something like the aforementioned Bummer, who, like, everyone, please go and check that band out. Maybe they'll reform and give me the album that's fully recorded but never been released yet. I like to me, what I liked about this is I think it's the perfect length. I will be honest, by the time I got to Family Suicide Gun, which is the closing track, I did feel like I'm starting to like get to the drained bit of just because there is no out with a slightly less than a feeling, which is an instrumental track. there really isn't any respite on this at all. It just really continues on at a very, very, very angry pace. And the things that break up the tracks are more the changes to something a little bit snappier, quicker, or something a little bit more chuggier, heavier. So it really is that angular sound that you would use is deliberately designed to make it not huggable. There are no huggable moments here without like getting stabbed or impaled. And that's cool. I'd like to me, I like bands that if you're going to go in and do it, go all in and do it. And I think the kind of almost weird kind of stream of consciousness poetry of the lyrics and the delivery, just, like it really works against the. And like when I said it's I think the vocals are deliberately higher in the mix because you need to be absorbed by that, and then the band wraps around you.
Yeah.
And in a weird way with the sound, when you listen, especially in good headphones, you feel like he's right there. He's at the other side of a table, like literally wagging a finger at you and shouting, and the band have somehow surrounded you. I think it doesn't lull in any way. I think the tracks manage to flow in an interesting way into each other while still being really interesting. And it has repeat listen value, which not all noise rock stuff has for me. I sometimes find that I get to the end of an album and I'm like, it might be like a couple of months before I try you again. I did 4 listens on this for this recording, which is usually one more than I usually do. One because it was mercifully short, but 2, I was intrigued by it. It was something that I wanted to spend more time with.
Yeah.
Even when you're listening towards the end, you've got "I'm very tired, please let me die."
Yeah.
And when it was those moments that I felt it had that kind of more chat piley vibe, so definitely a more kind of chat piley song.
Yeah.
But it comes towards the end, and it's the only track that does that, and then but it doesn't even spend that much time in the kind of weird, kind of ambient guitar playing and like kind of more aggressive spoken word. It doesn't spend a lot of time there, so they really have a good idea of how to switch things up, how to keep things interesting, how to power through. But above all else, they have a great sense of the album has to be this length. And clearly from what you're saying, that's been omnipresent throughout everything that they do, which I think is good, because I think from their point of view, I think they understand that there is, on some level, a shelf life to a listener listening to this sort of music. And the fact I've encapsulated that really well. Last thing I mentioned, production's great. It's raw, it's abrasive, but it doesn't lose anything. So once again, looking at noise rock as a genre, sometimes you lose a bit of the bass, sometimes the drums can be a little bit too tinny, sometimes the vocals can be far too loud. The balance in this one is really, really well done. And I like, even though I think the vocals are slightly louder in the mix than generally they would be on any other genre, within metal, generally you'd have that vocal sitting comfortably in the middle. Actually really works with their sound. It really draws you in and keeps you interested. So yeah, very much like yourself, never heard of Intercourse, the band, before. I've got kids. I know what it is, kids. Not saying I'm good at it, but I know what it is. But I'd never heard of these guys before. Totally on my radar now. Like yourself, would love to see this live. Give us this in the Hug and the Pint in Glasgow, in a basement that holds 60 people. And I'll be a happy chappy. So this was a lot of fun.
Yep. Okay. Scores for Intercourse and their new album, How I Fell in Love with the Void. I mean, as I said, not the biggest noise rock person or listener, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. I feel like it's an album, as I said, that you don't finish the album with like, you're not humming choruses or anything like that, but it's more an album that kind of makes you feel something. And I really enjoy an album like that I come away from like, I really kind of really felt what that a band were trying to put across, either in their lyrics or musically. And I think vocally this is really good. Like I really enjoyed his delivery and execution on this release. It's a very good album. I'd highly recommend, if you're into noise rock, then definitely give this a listen. I don't know if they're quite on the level of like a chat pile just yet, but if this is the kind of way they're going, then I imagine next release could be even bigger than this. For this one, I'm going to go 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed this, and I will come back to this, which is kind of rare for me, which with the noise rock stuff, I don't tend to really gravitate towards it, but I could see myself coming back and checking this out more again in the future. A lot of nice hardcore references in this, which I really enjoyed. What are you thinking score wise?
We're twinning on this one, 4 out of 5.
Nice.
Yeah, a lot of time for this, and like yourself, definitely one I'll go back to.
Yeah. Awesome. So that is Intercourse and How I Fell in Love with the Void, out on September 12th on Brutal Panda Records. Check out the links to the band, the pre-order one of the singles, have a listen, see what you think. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is a review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
You can't be